The
Word
podcast. Hello and welcome to What's the Word? Every Sunday, 6 p.m. on the dot, never late, coming at you with some Bible stuff. And this is a special one because on Friday,
why is it special?
on the Friday that's just gone 2 days ago, was our 2-year anniversary since our first episode was released.
Wow.
2 years. 2 years ago.
That's
We've been doing this consistently for 2 years. And, you know, the way we started it, there was some stuff rumbling around the Christian world about hell. Why would a loving God send people to hell? And we were like, do you know what? Let's sit down. Let's talk about hell. Let's talk about what it's about. Look at it from the Bible.
That's right, yeah.
You guys loved it. And here we are today, 2 years later. Wow. What a journey, mate.
Still
what
going.
a journey.
I know, yeah.
What a journey.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
If you're here watching this live, say hello in the comments, give it a like, give it a share, all that good stuff. Just helps get it out there. It's easy. It's free for you to do. Do you know what I mean?
That's true. It is free.
It is free. It's free. So if it's free, you may as well do it. If you listen to this later on Spotify or Apple or any other podcast platform, give us a star review. Let us know. And also go listen to the first episode. Go listen to What the Hell. That's what the title was. And let us know what you thought of that one, because that's where it all started. That's where the journey began.
And we have had some people ask us to do a session on hell, like another episode on hell. Yeah, like a few. And my feeling is always, I feel like we did really well on the first one, so
yeah, to be fair,
I always refer people back to that one as like that was.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground in that one.
We did pretty well on that one.
We covered a lot of ground in that one, and yeah, that was a saucy one. That one, that was probably one of my favorite episodes, if I'm honest with you. You know, if I had to put one down, I think that was just it. Because we didn't know what we were doing. There was just like,
we
let's just
literally
get
had
it
no
out
idea
here.
in it.
Yeah. But we're here, so great stuff. So Warner, start off as we always do. Tell the people, how was your week? What did you get up to? What did you rate it out of 10?
Out of 10, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Wow, that's a good high number for you.
For me, that's quite a high number. Yeah. And the reason is, I got a new phone start of the week, and like my phone had a lot of troubles. I really needed a new phone, and so we went out. I can't remember when it was. Sunday, I think it was Monday, bank holiday, innit?
Yeah.
Went out, got it, and it's just nice to have a device that you use so often, like work the way it's supposed to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't have to worry about trying to charge it a certain way. Don't have to worry about battery. Don't have to worry about like whether I can be heard on like calls and stuff. It's just like, hey, there it is. It's nice.
Yeah.
And then Mercy had some work in London Thursday, Friday. So I went down as well, did some remote work in there. And then Friday night, saw some mates from uni. Haven't seen them since, basically when we got married, which was like 2 and a bit years ago now.
Yeah.
And then we had a really nice day out Saturday, just doing a bunch of little things. Went to a food market, went to a market, had a nice posh little Italian meal.
Nice.
And then came back today. Had a little breakfast. So it's just been a good day.
Sounds like a solid week.
Good week. Yeah. So that's why I'd say it was an 8. It's better than my average week.
Yeah.
What about you?
Wow.
How have you been doing, sir?
For me, it's got to be a 10. I'm not gonna lie. It's got to be a 10.
Okay,
Big 10. But like, I don't think anything exceeded the 10. But like yesterday, I was at my cousin's wedding.
Nice.
My cousin, her name's Isabella. She's a ledge. She got married to this guy, and I'm not gonna lie, it was the poshest wedding I've ever been to in my life. Like,
was it?
So basically, like his dad basically paid for pretty much all of it. Had it on in his estate. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of. It's like different levels of rich. It's like a new level of rich I've never experienced. It's like open bar the whole time we were there. Like literally, not like a certain time or like a spending limit. It's just like the whole time there, open bar. Really, really nice food. There are 2 different bands. Like the venue was just this obviously big marquee in like one of their fields that they own, one of the many fields that one of the many acres that the Skeezer seems to own, and like it was just like really nice, dead posh. It was just different. It was like a different gravy. Do you know what I mean? Like I go to weddings quite often, and they're great. You know, like your wedding was lit, like in this nice house, like big. So, is it classed as a stately home? I don't know. It's a big gaff. Anyway, you know, really nice things like this. But this was different levels, man. I was like, who is spending this much on a wedding? This should be illegal.
It's like, a different life than the one that we live.
Different life to what I'm used to. But it was just dead nice. It was just dead nice. Like, it's comfortable. Do you know what I mean? It was that. You could just sit back. You could just relax. You could just have some food, listen to the band, have free drinks. You know what I mean? That's what you want really at weddings. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to stress around, running around. You had people doing everything for them. Do you know what I mean? It was just unbelievable. It was yeah. I mean, that's really topped my week, to be honest. And I start the new job tomorrow.
Hey! So, hey, drinks on Eamon.
We'll see how that goes.
Nice.
10 o'clock, I can be there. I'm excited. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good, mate.
Strong.
It's all good.
Hey, really good. If you're watching live with us, please let us know how you're doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's been good or bad. If it's been bad, we can pray for you. It's okay. We're here, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, the cool cue of this week. And I quite like this one, to be honest. Don't know how it was discovered, but it just appeared. And here it is. Would you rather work more hours a day but have longer weekends, or work fewer hours a day but with more work days? So we decided the more hours a day would be 10.5 hours minimum for 3 days, and then you have the other 4 days off. And you can't get time off those 10.5 hours, and you got to work that amount on those days. Yeah. And then for the lesser hours, it's 5. You work 5 hours every day, 7 days a week. What would you rather, Eamon?
It's genuinely a really, really tough one. Because I really don't know.
What I will say is, for the first one, you can pick which days you work. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So would you rather work more hours in a day? So the second one, so where you're working fewer hours, the 5 hours, do I get to pick when those hours are? Do you know what I mean?
So you would decide whether you want it in the morning or whether you want it in the evening.
Okay.
But it has to be 5 hours every day.
For me, I'd probably say the 5 hours, if I'm honest.
Oh, why'd you say 5 hours?
I think I would. I think because I just think like I don't want to overwork myself on those days. Do you know what I mean? That I'm in, and like I think whether you're when you're so you say you should do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 10 hours, and then the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday you're rested. On that Sunday, you'll be so rested that when you go back to those 10 hours, I reckon it'll just be even more grueling than already a Monday is.
Really? Wow.
I think so. So I think because you'll be so chilled out for the past 4 days, you'll just be like, oh, let's go back to do 10 hours.
I don't want to go back to this.
So I think I would just do, because I think as well, I'd do it really early in the morning, as early as I could possibly get it in the morning, like 6, 7 a.m. start. So then it basically gives me the whole afternoon and the evening to sort of do stuff and see people, do what I need to do and all that kind of stuff. I think I'd pick that, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
How about you?
I would 100% go for the longer days.
Really?
Yeah, because
why?
If I'm working and I'm in a groove, I prefer to stay in that groove and just bash work out. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
I'm not really someone who will do everything super incrementally. I like to work in like big blocks and then like have big rest.
Yeah.
And generally, if I look at the bank holiday format, like by the time I'm hitting that bank holiday Monday, I already feel like I've rested because it's a weekend, and then you get an extra day. So I feel like I prefer that, just as a way of living. Do you know what I mean?
It's a really difficult one, though, isn't it? Because there's so many pros and cons, I think, for both sides of the argument. Obviously, we can see from the comments, you got 10.5 hours and longer weekends, and then few hours per day. But I mean, like, Ezekiel, like, do you know what I mean? Being a church leader is basically a 24-hour kind of job anyway, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People can just call you 24 hours, so that's brutal, that. But,
Yeah.
you know, I think, I don't know. I just think a few hours, I think if I could do it early in the morning, I think just get it over and done with for the day. It just gives you a lot more options in that afternoon and evening to sort of do stuff. Obviously, church, some of that I do to the evening.
That is true.
I don't know.
Although, bear in mind, the earlier you do it, the earlier you, in theory, will need to go to bed.
Nah.
You know what I mean? As long as you're happy to be like, if you want to start at like 6,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Then if you're doing something till like 9:30, that could wreck you. But
I think I would take it on the conditions that it was like a home working kind of deal, work from home.
No. There's no,
like, because some jobs are like solely working from home. So like I would try, if it perfect scenario, you'd be working from home, do 5 hours, start 6, end at 11, bing bang bosh, just roll out of bed 1:45, get it done, and then, you know, get ready for the day after.
And do the rest.
I think that'd work well.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's good. So, that's a great question, though.
Yes, I think it's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting way of like understanding different people's thought processes and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you listen to this later on, honestly, let us know, because I would be genuinely quite interested to hear your reasons why and everything like that. But moving swiftly on, we are going through the topics, and we're doing a topic. This is like a part 2, or is it like a part 2 or like a round 2? I don't really know.
Part 2.
Part 2.
I mean, I called it a part 2, so I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. So, like, you know, last week, as you guys would know, we were talking on lessons from the life of Jesus. I just sort of named 3 things that I've really taken specifically recently in my life that I've said, this is something that I've been homing in on. And I was like, Warner, you need to do it, get your perspective. So, Warner, take us away, mate.
All right. So, my first, like, principle / example is that God moves in the inconveniences.
Nice.
And, like, this is something I always think is it's just, obviously there's so many interesting things about the way that Jesus led his life. But this one, I think, because of the scope of the demand on him, I think this is the one I'm like, most, like, all of us struggle with inconveniences in some form or fashion. But especially when you're like, you know, like Jeffrey Bezos level of like time allocation, where like a lot of these people, these like big moguls, have their day broken up in like 15-minute increments, and stuff like that. And the demand on Jesus was time-wise was way more than what they deal with. But so many of the really big kind of famous, like, you know, the stories that we quote a lot in the script, in the Gospels especially, like when you actually look at them, they're all basically inconveniences into Jesus' schedule. So, for example, this first one, I'm not going to read them because, like, it's basically the whole story and it'll take ages. But I'll give the reference and then just like give a short summary. So the first one, Luke 15, 17 to 25, is the story of the paralyzed man who had some very good friends, and they couldn't get into where Jesus is basically doing this big teaching conference, and they decide, we can get you in through the roof. So they climb up the roof and they lower him down. And basically, if you think about it from Jesus's entourage's perspective, here's Jesus doing his thing. He's teaching as he always does. It's rammed. Like, you know what I mean? People are trying to hear from outside. And, like, you know, from the admin point of view, you're just trying to make sure everything stays, like, standard, innit? Like, hey, everything's like, Jesus is teaching. Obviously, you got Pharisees and Sadducees doing their thing, you know, scowling in the background, but everything's fine. And then suddenly you just see this thing. It's like, what's that on the roof? Peter, can you see jogging? And it's just this guy on a mat who's paralyzed, being lowered down. Like, I think from, like, that's such an inconvenience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
massive,
we talk about, like, inconveniences as being like, you know, I was late 5 minutes, so you know, someone asked me the time while I was walking somewhere. Like, Jesus had a human being interrupt what he's saying, because he was being lowered from the roof to the ground. I don't know how tall that was, but like, that was like, everyone in that place would have seen that and been like, oh, what is going on? Like, so I'm sure there were some people who, like, some people are just so desperate to be around Jesus. Like, what are you like? That's so dangerous. He looks paralyzed. Who would do this to him? Like, all this. I'm sure, because, you know, if something like that happened in our meetings, you know, people have those thoughts, stuff like that, innit? And Jesus's response is like to give this inconvenience time, and obviously it all comes out of him spending time with the Father in the morning, that he's prepared for all of this. But even though he's inconvenienced, he understands and is led by the Holy Spirit to bring healing to this man. Who then, you know, he gets healed, he picks up his mat, he's dancing, there's all this stuff, and everyone in there is like, whoa, what the heck's going on? I was just here for a nice seminar, and now, like, some guy's been lowered from the roof and is now like he's not paralyzed anymore, even though I know he should be paralyzed. And then another one, Luke 8:43, 48. This is super famous story of the woman with the issue of blood. If you don't know it, like, this is someone who basically had a chronic illness for decades, had tried all sorts of medications, and basically everyone was like, yeah, you're just gonna have to live with it. And she'd basically spent all the money on all these different things, and she had zero options. It was effectively like, I just have to live in this horrible state forever. Jesus is on his way somewhere while in a crowd of people. So, you know, he's just traveling. He's trying to get to his next appointment while all these people are bothering him, and his disciples are trying to stop as many people as possible touching him and getting close to him. You know, if you've seen some of the like videos of like the Beatles back in the day, or even like One Direction at their height, where it's just like an insane frenzy.
Mental,
like, that's what Jesus dealt with at this time. And this woman, like, manages to somehow get close enough to touch his hem. And, you know, he says, who touched me? Power left me. And his disciples, like, literally everyone's touching you, Jesus. Like, I don't know what you want from me. And then she obviously said it was me. And then they spoke, She was healed. But that was another instance of Jesus is being, like, obviously he's being inconvenienced by all the people because they're in his way. But here's this one person who, like, interrupts his plans, but God delivers healing to her through that inconvenience. And I think it's such a challenging way to approach life. Of instead of me viewing these inconveniences as negative things, is being open enough to view them as an opportunity that God wants to like meet someone's need or reveal himself to someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think, especially as our world gets faster and faster paced, which I think it's only going to continue to get
100%.
more like faster and faster paced. As you know, we don't even have things like holograms. I don't know if people have been seeing. I've been talking about this all week. Tesla announced that they're going to be releasing a robot. And, you know, so a lot of these futuristic things that we've kind of been like seeing in pop culture, that people are actively working towards that. So, you know, we're basically at our least technological point of view in terms of where we're going. So life's only going to get more crazy, and more people are going to be, you know, in their own world or whatever. And inconveniences are going to continue to happen all the time. And it's like, it's a challenging thing to be like, okay, this person is just started randomly talking to me on the tram on my way to work. I'm inconvenienced right now. Like, I was trying to listen to this podcast, or I was listening to some music, or I'm watching a funny video before I go into work on Monday morning. and some random person's talking to me, I don't want to talk to you. I got noise cancelling headphones for a reason. And not every inconvenience means that, you know, this is some dramatic moment where God's gonna come and, you know, like something crazy is gonna happen. But so much more, I think so many more of our inconveniences are actually opportunities.
100%.
And that's, I think that's one of the big challenges of, and like principles and examples to the way that Jesus lived his life, was that he understood, because of his time with God, that, you know, when this thing happens, like, I know, okay, like, Holy Spirit, you want something to be achieved here. So it doesn't matter what the other stuff is that's going on. I can always get back to that, but I'm going to do this now. Like, I can't remember if it was the one with the blood or another one, where because he stopped to heal this person, the actual person he was going to heal died. Do you know what I mean? So that's the inconvenience is such an inconvenience that the other thing that you had planned is, like, in all intents and purposes, is completely ruined. But that didn't shake Jesus. He dealt with what was going on, and then, you know, still went on, brought the person back to life, and he was like, it's chill. I'm doing what my father's doing.
Yeah.
So I just thought that's just brilliant. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that's such a thing that we can sort of, as you were saying, in an increasingly busy world, we can kind of just sort of shrug all that kind of stuff off because we're so locked into our noise cancelling headphones and you know, books or videos or whatever. I had this not even like that long ago. I think it was Wednesday night. I was coming home and I was on the tram stop, and it was really busy station. I've got my earphones in and just listening to some tunes, and I'm reading a book. And this homeless man comes on the platform. There's quite a few people there, maybe like 15, 20 people on the platform. And he just shouts, "You with the book." And I was like, what? I was like, is that like, I said it from headphones. I was
calling
like, okay,
you out directly, eh?
Everyone looks at me because I'm the only geezer with a book. And he just comes up to me and just starts chatting. I was getting a really gripping bit in this book. Like I was locked into this book, locked into my headphones. And like my tram was about 3 minutes away, and it was just this weird inconvenience of this guy, just this homeless man, just talked to me. He wasn't asking for money. He was just chatting to me, literally just chatting, like, what are you reading, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, this is really weird. Like, this is a really weird conversation. I was just like, I just kept chatting to him, and I was asking him stuff and questions, things like this, and then you know, at the end, he was like, oh, thanks for chatting to me, and I was like, great, no worries, mate. And I just got on the tram and went, and like, ultimately, you know, there was nothing dramatic that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, he didn't sort of end up giving his life to Jesus or something like that. But it was just the fact that, you know, in those moments, just showing that care, that attention, which can, for some people, just be so important, so vital, even when, you know, it can be such an inconvenience. I'm locked in my book and I've got my earphones on, or as you say, watching the video or whatever. And I'm, you know, I'm coming home from work. And I'm just locked into just getting home and just chilling out. It's been a stressful day. And those little moments where somebody just strikes up that conversation can be so weird, especially like nobody wants to talk to anyone. Like, you know, this is UK. I mean, nobody wants to talk to anybody really. Everyone just wants
that's the thing.
Just get ignored, head down, just go straight on. Don't say hello to anyone. But when someone does that, having that time, just say, okay, I'm going to spend some time on this. And as I was doing, just ask the questions and things like this. And it can lead to something amazing where, you know, God does something, or it could literally just be something that brightened up that guy's day, because he was obviously homeless and things like that. Obviously gets ignored every single day. And somebody just taking that little notice of him could be really, really impactful, whatever it is. But yeah, I think that's such a vital thing.
Yeah. So next one. I'll try to find a nice layman's way of explaining this, so hopefully it's good enough. Jesus acted towards how people would be, not how they are or / were. And I think this is kind of linked to his teaching on forgiveness as well.
Yeah.
But Jesus is like, obviously, you know, he's the perfect example of this. But he literally did it so many times. That I think it should be, you know, one of the main ways that we live life, and it's very hard because you know, if you have, you know, whether it's like a prejudice towards, you know, someone for whatever reason, you just have a preconceived idea of, because I know this piece of information about this person, like you're probably like this, so I'm going to treat you as that. Or you know, it might be a valid piece of information, as we'll see in some of the examples. Like, I'm going to treat you as this thing. And Jesus, more often than not, always, particularly people that he's ministering to, he always treats them. He always acts towards them how he sees them, not how they actually are. And a lot of his actions helps bring people closer to the place where he sees them, rather than just leaving them where they are. Like, basically, the only people Jesus is harsh with is the Pharisees and Sadducees, who are like, you know, the religious hypocrites. Those are the people who Jesus is like, I'll give you my time, but I'll rip you apart. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to call you out. Everyone else, he was like, come on, like, this is, and it's just amazing. So, John 8, 1-11 is a story of Jesus forgiving the woman caught in adultery.
Classic story.
And, like, if you think about the story, it's actually kind of mad, isn't it? Like, this woman was literally dragged out of the bed she had been in, brought before Jesus, and, like, in court, it's a slam dunk case, isn't it? It's like, she was there, she did it, she's guilty. And in one sense, they were right to say, "Hey, we should stone her," because that's what the law says. Because that is what the law said. But you know, Jesus was showing how his kingdom functions, and you know, he puts it up on all the other people, and you know, all of them are like, "Oh, I've sinned. Like, I'm not going to do it first." And then he forgives the woman, and then tells her to go and sin no more. And so Jesus isn't, because she's still fearful, even after the people start gradually moving away, and she's kind of thinking, all right, I'm not going to have 20 stones thrown at me. It's down to 15 now. Oh, now it's down to 10. Oh, now it's down to 5. Like, even after all of them went, she still would have had in her mind, like, Jesus is still here, and like, he's the prophet guy. Do you know what I mean? If anyone's going to say something to me, or like, is this going to be horrible? But he speaks to her not as like a woman who's just committed adultery, which is what she was at that time, but as who she could be and who he saw her to be, and spoke to her in that place and called her to something greater than that. And obviously, we never hear from her again. We don't know how she lived her life. But I would imagine that that's something that she was consistently aware of. And for all we know, she might have been part of the multitude of people who became Jesus' disciples at that time. And then a bit further on, John 21, verse 1-19. This is Jesus forgiving one of his best mates for betrayed him. I mean, like, this is if this happened in society today, like, this like, people get cut off for less than what happened here. So, I mean, it's like, I was trying to think of what's the right way of explaining, like, what Peter actually did. I don't know if it's as far as heresy, but it's pretty close, because he completely denies any relationship. Like, I was trying to think of it, like, in modern terms, it's effectively like, if you could be killed because you're a Christian, it's effectively you saying multiple times in front of multiple people, I'm not Christian, I don't know Jesus. Do you know what I mean? Like that, and that's quite a severe thing to do. And obviously it makes sense, because once Peter realized like what had actually happened, he pretty much became depressed. Like, he was just miserable beyond like misery. And Jesus then, post resurrection, he's talking to them, and then he's speaking to Peter one-on-one, and then he reinforces who Peter is, and reinforces his relationship with Peter, rather than being like, Peter, you snaked me out, you betrayed me, but I'm Jesus, so I forgive you. Like, that's not what he did.
Yeah.
He didn't even approach the problem. Do you know what I mean? He acted in a way that let Peter know, I know what happened, and I know where you think you are, but I'm still calling you to something
it's good.
that is greater than this thing that you've done. And I think that was probably the biggest core thing that, like, stabilized Peter. Do you know what I mean? Because before, Peter's one of the disciples who was always super passionate. He was always like, he was like, we don't really use this word anymore, I don't think. But when I was like in high school, like if there was a smart kid in the class who's like always answering the questions, you'd like get called a swat. So that would be Peter. Like whenever Jesus said something, Peter would always be like kid who's like, "Oh yeah, Jesus, like this is my answer." And sometimes he'd get it wrong and just look like a mug or like get it right, whatever. But that Peter was like the eager beaver, like, yeah, I'm Jesus' best protege, and he's the one who arguably, other than Judas, like did the worst thing to Jesus. And so I would imagine that if Jesus didn't act in this particular way to him, like even after let's just say everything happened the exact same way, except this part, I don't know how whether we would see the Peter that we saw, even after the Holy Spirit came, because I think that would be so much in his mind and in his psyche of like, I'm still that guy who betrayed betrayed the one person that I said is like the most important person in existence. But Jesus reaffirms his relationship with him, and then reaffirms his mission as well. He's like, don't think that just because this has happened, A, I don't love you, and B, my plans for you have changed at all. If anything, I'm re-establishing that. And then, we see Peter go on and, helps build the foundation of the church, does all this incredible stuff, really out of this experience of having spent all these 40 days with Jesus. And I think, that's a tough thing to do.
100%.
Because, especially if you're the person who has evidently been wronged, you do have your, like, there is a sense of justice being that you get some kind of reparations. Do you know what I mean? And I think, like, pastorally, it's a tough thing to navigate, and it's probably down to situations, because it's very easy to say you should forgive everyone, but it's very different to walk out that forgiveness. But Jesus does do it, and he shows us how, and I think this is probably for me one of the most like
100%
inspirational things about Jesus, because I just think there's so many people who like not even in a wrong way, but we just carry so much baggage of things that either we've done to someone else and we feel guilty about, or someone has done to us and we feel really wronged by. And here is someone who has been wronged by the closest person to him, and he's obviously, like, before this happened, Jesus has already forgiven Peter. Like, I don't think Jesus has forgiven Peter at that moment. Jesus is. It's like when, like, Dad did a really good preach a few weeks ago on. Oh, was it last week? I can't remember now. Time's wild. About forgiveness and I think one of the really key things he said, which I think is just brilliant, the way, because I've not really heard it that way, is that we're not asked to forgive because like we might feel good, or because we'll get a reward, or even for the other person's sake. We're just called to forgive because that's what we do, and forgiveness is actually, you're supposed to forgive out of your faith in God, because your forgiveness is saying that I trust that God is faithful. That whatever's happened, it doesn't matter, because God is gonna work things good for me. So I don't need to, I don't need to carry this baggage, or I don't need to have my vindication in the way that I need to do it. I forgive because I trust that God is good and God is faithful. And so then you come and that allows you, I think, to approach someone and say,
100%.
Hey man, like I'm not like. Sometimes you need to talk things out, but sometimes you don't need to talk things out. We just need to continue to reaffirm who the person is. And it's just like, oh Jesus, it's literally a different way of life, because that's just not how life is lived, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like that's the thing. Like I think in like you see it all the time online is when someone's done something wrong. Like let's expose them. Let's sort of get it out on the internet so everyone can see how wrong they are, and that's gonna, like, ultimately Jesus just completely flips on his head. He sort of forgives these people. I think that, I think I shared this last week. This story of when I was in Bible school, and two people like really hurt me with what they said, and I just took that time away, and I was dead annoyed and angry. I was like, I'm going home and all this, but then the Lord just sort of spoke to me in that moment and just sort of said, one person just go up to them and say that they wronged you, but you forgive them, and the other person, give them a card, 20 quid, give them a card, send it to them, and just encourage them in the card. And I was like, okay, and that was like, it was so like counter to what I usually knew and what I usually understood, but it was the exact way that sort of Jesus operates. And as soon as I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is pretty, I can see why, Jesus did this. And it was challenging. It wasn't easy. It wasn't like sort of like, yeah, just go to them, here's a card, or like, yeah, you said this, blah, blah, blah. It was difficult, and I didn't really want to do it. So I was like, well, they should come to me. Why not come to me? Or like, well, these kind of things. But ultimately, just doing that is just, it's a different level. Do you know what I mean? And Jesus sort of sets that example perfectly for us. And just how to do this and how to operate in this sphere, and it's so counter to what what everyone else is doing and what sort of you're told to do, and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's actually kind of beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Just sort of when you read these stories, you're just like, wow, that's unbelievable.
I mean, what it is it's literally living out of divine love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's the exact way that God loves us. And I think that's what makes it hard, because there's so many situations where people have been wronged, and the justice element says they should have justice, which is, and God is a God of justice, but God is also a God of love, and even Jesus being sent for us was, God didn't get the justice that we would say he should have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we would, as humans, we would say Jesus dying and us not taking our punishment isn't a just thing to happen.
Yeah.
But it was a loving thing to happen, and yeah, I think it's just a big thing. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
But I think when Jesus says stuff like, they'll know you by how you love each other, I think that's one of the things of how we forgive and live with people through offense. Can really show people like, wow, something's different about you. Because if that had happened to me, like there'd have been fights. Do you know what I mean? Like we'd have been going to war. I don't understand what's going on. Anyway, to round it up, last one. Jesus had fun. You know what I mean? Jesus just liked a good time, and he was someone that other people enjoyed being around. Like sometimes we don't really think about that. But regardless of how famous you might be, like if people don't like you, you're still not gonna get invited to stuff. People wouldn't clamor to try and like have you round or whatever. Jesus was always getting invited to dinners, even by the people that he was the most antagonistic towards. He'd go and he'd be invited to have dinner at like Pharisees, Sadducees places. That's where if you've read that story of the woman who goes and like washes his feet with her hair, Jesus is having dinner at this Pharisee or Sadducee's house, His first miracle was at a wedding that he was invited to, and the miracle that he did was a party, like a party-inducing miracle. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like, no, I've had enough of the party now, so I'm not gonna produce any more wine. The miracle was that he produced incredible wine, and evidently people kept partying. But he also would he would want to spend time with people. So, Zacchaeus, he was like, I'm going to come and have dinner at your house. I'm going to spend time with you. I'm going to come into your environment to let you know that, I completely accept you. And that was a massive reason as to why a lot of people were really impacted by Jesus, was the fact that, here's this person who, by all rights, shouldn't really be here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be here at all. But he doesn't judge me, even though I know that he knows what's wrong about me. And he's still not compromising himself in these situations.
Yeah.
But he's comfortable to be around us when normally people shun us away. And out of that posture, then you get loads of people having interactions with him and with the kingdom of God, and their lives being changed.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just a good thing to just remember. It's okay to just go have fun and not have to think I'm only gonna do this thing if I can track the way that all these things are gonna happen or whatever. And not to despise these moments of gonna go have dinner with a friend that I've not seen in a while, or if maybe someone new comes, or speaking to a neighbor and you're like, hey, do you want to just come over, have a meal, to just have fun. A lot of these really core moments in the Bible always, a lot of them involved meals, whether they were big meals or small meals. I just think part of living life like Jesus is, let's just have fun, not take ourselves too seriously, and not that doesn't mean then we go to parties and all these wild things happen and we're just compromising left, right, and center. But I think it does mean that they're environments that Christians should be in that we're probably not in.
Yeah, good.
Whereas if Jesus was physically here today, which obviously he is through his body, but if the person of Jesus was here, he would 100%, if we saw his Instagram feed, it'd be like, oh my god, did you see that Jesus went to this? I'm pretty sure I just saw Jesus out last week and he's at another thing. It's oh my god, do you see that Jesus having dinner with the people that run GB News or whatever? I don't know. Whatever in our sphere or in your own head is I would never associate with these people. That's what he did, and he, because he was so sure of himself, he was able to transform that environment rather than that environment changing him. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, I just think that's a great distinction of what it is to be a follower of the way, as opposed to just getting swept up in whatever the world's doing. What do you think?
That's good, mate. Honestly, I think I was reading a book not long ago on it was talking about monks, and these sort of old-fashioned sort of Christian monks who would live in these abbeys, and they wouldn't talk for 23 hours in a day, and they would have to renounce all worldly possessions, and they weren't really allowed to do much or have much fun and things like that. I'm that's when I'm reading about Jesus. I don't think Jesus lived his life like that. As you said, he had parties and he went to dinner parties and things like this. That story you were talking about earlier, when the woman, she comes and he's crying at his feet and kissing his feet and wiping it with her hair and stuff. He was at a Pharisees, for a dinner party, and he wasn't afraid to sort of be in those spheres where people were a little bit this guy's a bit odd, or this he's a heretic, or whatever it is that they call Jesus. You know what I mean? He wasn't afraid to sort of sit in those spaces and talk and connect with people. I think that's so important for us, is just to calm down a bit. That And obviously, it doesn't mean like loosen up so much that you're just going off doing this, that, and the other. But we can just chill out a little bit and just sort of sit with those people that you wouldn't normally associate with, or you would think that are against you, or they the enemy, or whatever you want to call it. And just that's good. That I think that's probably my favorite one, actually.
And I think a massive thing as well is that it shows that you're not like Jesus didn't live out of a concern of like, what are my disciples going to think of me speaking to this person that, like, one of his disciples was a zealot. Like, that's like effectively a terrorist. That's how other people would have seen him. And so it's 100% guaranteed that Jesus hung out with people that Simon was like, in another life, Jesus, like literally 4 years ago, me and this person would be fighting to the death in the street or whatever the thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of the challenging side of it is a lot of time, definitely for me, what can stop that kind of comfort in the interaction is like, if people in the church see me in, like, do you know what I mean, in this interaction, like, that can cause a trouble. And I don't know whether that is the way that Jesus lived his life based off what we know about his life. So I think, part of that is, whether there's judgmental Christians and all that jazz, but, Jesus is the way ultimately, and he shows us how we live. And, it's just a different way of living life, isn't it?
Yeah. That's good, that, mate. So appreciate that. They were solid, especially like that last one. That was a good one. Because for one thing, you can sort of skip your mind almost. You know what I mean? Yes, that's good. I think this series has probably been, obviously it's not really a series at this point. It's just 2 parts, but it's probably one of my favorite ones. So maybe in the future. Maybe
we could even end up getting to a part 4. Yeah, maybe we could do that.
Get some guests on to talk about because it's quite interesting to see the different perspectives, what people are seeing and looking at, and what. Yeah, so that's solid. I mean, we'll probably will end up doing this again at some point with some other people. But thanks, Juana. Appreciate that. That was really, really good. Everyone in the comments, give a round of applause. Do the applause emojis to Juana because that was top tier. But yes. We'll be back, same time, same place. Well, I won't be here next week. I'm away.
Eamon's away.
So I don't know what you've got planned. If you've,
we'll see.
But we'll see. Yeah, you'll just follow our socials and you'll find out. But I mean, we'll be some form of the podcast will be here the same time, the same place next week. If there's any topics you want us to look at, let us know in the comments. If there's any questions, queries, anything you wanted to put it in the comments because we will respond. If you put it there. But if not, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you. Bye, everyone.
Peace.